Hello and welcome to Knowing Me, Knowing UKSG, a podcast exploring journeys in scholarly communications. In each episode, we hear from someone inspiring from the knowledge community and ask them to tell us about their career journey and what has motivated them along the way.
Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the UKSG podcast. My name is Tom and today we're joined by Nataliia Kaliuzhna, who is a research associate. Nataliia was one of our bursary winners at the UKSG Conference 2025, and today we'll be having a conversation about Natalia's experience at the conference and also passing some tips for people who may be considering applying for the conference in future. Nataliia, thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi Tom, thank you so much for having me.
Just to get us going, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? So maybe your current and your previous roles so far?
Sure. I'm a librarian and researcher with education and professional background in library information science and scholarly communication domain. My research blends traditional approaches to providing open access to scholarly output with critical perspective on inequalities and knowledge production and dissemination. I'm currently working at TIB, Leibniz Information Center for Science and Technology and University Library, when I have just wrapped up the Idaho project, in which we investigated hurdles to open access publishing faced by researchers with weak institutional ties. By weak institutional ties, researchers, we mean those who don't have a backend institution behind them, or they're different from universities or research institutions. So in particular, those are citizen science researchers, retired researchers, refugee researchers who have not settled after moving countries, and scientists who conduct research for civil or not-for-profit organizations, and other breeds of independent researchers. We have published some results of the project, and one of them is the recommendations for publishers and journal editors to mitigate barriers for those researchers. Prior to joining TIB, I worked at the State Scientific and Technical Library of Ukraine, when I was mainly involved in supporting researchers in an institution in persistent identifier adoption. Together with my colleague, Sabina Hunas, we collect formation of the Ukrainian ORCID Consortia back in 2022. And another direction I was working on at that position was on fair open research information. Apart from my former employment and research, I actively engage in scholarly activities. I'm a member of the Society for Scholarly Publishing, Diversity, Equality, Inclusion, and Accessibility Committee, when together with Moccasin Beauty from Taylor Francis and Faye de Brooks from Duke University Press, I co-chair the revision of the Anti-Racist Toolkit for Allies, which is a practical instrument to address racial disparities specific to scholarly publishing industry. So we plan to release an updated version of the toolkit in May 2026. And I'm also a volunteer for the DROJ. And I would like also to share my recent milestone is that I have defended my PhD just months ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Those sound like really interesting projects. Is there anywhere where some of the listeners might be able to find out more about your research and some of the outputs?
Oh, yeah, sure. We do have a project website. It calls Idaho, and this is abbreviation. The abbreviation stands for Identification of Hurdles for Open Access Publishing for Researchers with Institution Ties, Epistemic Injustice in Scholarly Communication. And we have published a literature review on hurdles to open access publishing with Open Royal Society journal. And yeah, so the readers can dive in more details using those resources.
Thank you very much. I think I'll definitely be checking that out myself, and we can post a link to that in the description for the podcast. You attended the UKSG conference last year. Was there anything that you enjoyed most about attending the conference?
Many things, actually. First of all, it was my very first time visiting the UK and attending the UKSG Conference. So I arrived genuinely excited and curious about pretty much everything. The selection of session was exceptional and extremely interesting. One of my favorite ones was titled "The House Believes Journals Are No Longer the Only Publication Option." I liked it because it touched on something many of us feel but don't always say out loud. That there is this growing gap between how quickly and openly we can share research online and how slow and strict traditional journals still are. So the panelists made a really strong case for the self-publishing models used by NGOs and think tanks. So they showed how these approaches not only avoid the long delay of traditional peer review, but also make research more accessible and easier for the public to engage with. One thing that really stood out to me was the common misconception that this kind of publications aren't peer reviewed. So in reality, many of them go through very thoroughly review process. They're just different from the traditional academic model. And this discussion, I reflect a lot on my project when researchers outside of academia, that they say that if you are not published in academic journals, people simply don't take your work seriously.
Yeah.
Yes. And another thing that I would like to highlight is about the organizational aspect. It's that breakout session were scheduled 2 times, so many of them were repeating, which completely removed that dilemma of choosing to what session to go and associated stress with missing out.
And were there any key takeaways for you from the conference?
So I think the main takeaway was about the sharing responsibility when it comes to research integrity in scholarly publishing. That also was highlighted at one of the sessions, and that every actor from scholarly communication have to play a tiny role in it, and that big publishers perhaps can be more active in doing their part in that.
And has your career or role changed as a result of attending the conference? Is there anything that you've taken away from attending the conference and implemented in your own role?
Yeah, I would say it hasn't changed my position that I'm currently working on, but the one aspect it definitely had impact. So, for instance, at the conference, I got to meet Faye from Duke University Press in person. I knew her before the conference, but we used to we are serving for the same committee. And we had a very lovely discussion about the publishing, about our plans and everything. And later she reached out to me with an offer to join her in co-chairing the revision of the C4DISC anti-racist toolkit for allies. The abbreviation C4DISC stands for Coalition for Diversity and Inclusion in Scholarly Communication. And that's how I got a leadership position and the chance to work with a fantastic group of publishing and scholarly communication experts. So I would say, yes, it got me an exposure to the right people and to right opportunities.
That sounds like a fantastic opportunity that you've got just from attending the conference. I imagine there might be quite a few listeners to this podcast who are perhaps thinking of applying for one of the conference bursary places. Do you have any tips for first timers and for people who might be considering completing the application, or any tips in general for people who are attending the UKSG conference for the first time as a delegate?
Yes, I do have some. So my tip for newcomers is to check the program of the conference in advance, not the sessions you want to attend and people you want to meet. Another tip is to be active. Be the one who starts conversation. Don't wait that someone might approach you and start talking to you. Be the one who initiates interaction. And when it comes to preparing an application, I think that being concrete and detailed really helps. Generic motivation letters are boring, so I would say be authentic and don't be afraid to be a little bit raw. So that's what makes your application stand out.
Well, it's been fantastic speaking to you about your experiences at the conference. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
UKSG exists to connect the sector and encourage the exchange of ideas. It brings together the information community of librarians, publishers, intermediaries and technology vendors. If you know someone whose career journey would make for an interesting episode, please get in touch with UKSG via Twitter. Please like and share our podcast to help us support those in our community who are just starting their journey. And subscribe to the channel to keep up with future episodes.